Extermination twice brings happiness at a price, by Stephen76. So seldom does nature actually hand you a solution so broadly and boldly. So seldom does opportunity beat the door down rather than knock and walk. Perhaps only once in 10 lifetimes would such an occasion arise as this tale I shall unfold. My eldest brother and I both held the heart of the fairest maiden in our fishing village. She was unable to decide which of us to spend her life with. But upon a fishing trip, which included he, our middle brother, and myself, the solution presented itself as bright as day, while in the eye of the most terrible hurricane we'd ever been through. It began as a calm and sunny morning, but by noon the waves were folding over our bow and sneaking into our stern. The rain seemed to be jumping upwards out of the sea, and the wind seemed to come from every direction at once. Our sloop began to break apart under the strain, and we all felt it best to abandon ship. We piled into the lifeboat and cut away from the sloop just as she crumbled under a wave that towered over us and smacked our dinghy 30 feet across the rough surface. It was then we saw it. The largest whirlpool we had ever seen, and we were caught in its grasp, circling faster and faster. We watched as bigger pieces of the ship would pass us, as heavier items were dragged into oblivion quicker than lighter. It was then I had my epiphany, suddenly realizing how I could easily win the hand of the maiden. I slinked over to my eldest brother and put my hand on his back. He looked into my eyes and I into his, smiled at him, he smiled back, applied some pressure, and in he went, smacking his head on the hull of the lifeboat. I watched as his head would disappear beneath the waves and then pop up again, struggling to find something to grab, but something found him. Another large piece of our sloop's hull raked over him, and I saw him no more. Then I turned to see my other brother staring at me in horror, accusing me of being a murderer, of being mad. I assured him that it was indeed he who had gone mad. To even think me capable of such a deed was preposterous. And as I approached him, he took it upon himself to jump overboard, yelling our elder brother's name. I could hear him for a time, but he too was silenced. I grabbed the flotation ring from under my bench and jumped in myself, watching the lifeboat swirl to the mouth of the sea to be swallowed up. Most debris had been eaten by now, and the storm had passed. I floated and prayed for this to end, and it did. Another fishing boat picked me up and took me home. A few months later I was married to my beautiful wife. Now I am happy, except at night, when I lay in bed staring at the darkest corner of our room, seeing my two brothers standing there, grinning, as if they know something I don't. End poem.